This early aggression is really paying off already. You can see how big damage this actually dealt. Every action, every decision has their consequences. This is so annoying, extremely annoying, and this is all because of those Sunkens. Okay, so Terran is going for the and this is exactly the moment I was talking about. Okay, so look, that's a very important moment for you to remember. So those mutas are relentless in this game. It's so annoying. VCC in TvZ is like this Protoss unit for Terran. Hello guys, today we are gonna analyze another high-level game. It's TvZ, played on around 2400 MMR level, and I chose Knockout because I specifically have a little bit of a problems navigating games on Knockout in like middle and late game, because your natural third is mineral omnis, so it means that you cannot get a lot of those high level Terran tech units, and I want to see how this Terran will handle this situation. This game is over 20 minutes long. I specifically picked something that is going to the late game. So we will learn together. So we got drone scouted. We can suspect because of that Zerg is here. This Terran seemed like he was going up. I don't know if this was because he didn't see the Overlord or something. But in general, I explained this scouting pattern in my 16 scout video. So usually when you get scouted by drone quickly, on this map specifically, you can suspect that Zerg would be in the bottom right. So we have this move out. This is very trendy nowadays. I guess he will go back now, seeing for links. Or not. Okay, so we are waiting for the 4th Marine, and we are trying to figure out whether Zerg is going more than 4 links, right? Because if he is, wow, creep colony already. That's interesting. I don't understand this decision, to be fair. Because instead of losing drone and a lot of minerals on Sunken, you can just make one more round of links. So I don't know. But okay. He will successfully defend pretty easily. Sunkens are very powerful at the beginning. Shut down any marine aggression. And we have fast upgrade from the Terran into Academy, so that's pretty standard nowadays as well. Like, this is probably one of the 2 most played builds, which one is Turax Academy after the expo, and the one is fast upgrade. So get Steam, probably medics now, and I assume this Terran will go like few medics first. Yeah, so this Terran is pretty active with those marines, and it already pays off, right? If you are just not standing here doing nothing, then usually you can have those opportunities to deal any damage. Like in this case, he killed 2 links, which might not seem like a lot, but those links won't be able to be used as scouters, for example. Wow, okay, so because Zerg doesn't know what is the build of the Terran, he assumed that this could be Turax Academy, and then this force would be much larger, right? So he's very afraid of that. So that's why we have additional 2 Sunkens, because this one was damaged. So I already learned something in this game. So because of this early move out, and the fact that Terran dealt quite some damage to the Sunken is no longer viable as the reliable defense versus Turax Academy. So normal case is that when you are playing versus Turax Academy as Zerg, you go for 2 Sunkens. And that's it. And it's usually sufficient to defend properly, because your mutas are about to pop, and then you have those 2 Sunkens, and it's okay. But in this case, because this is so low HP, Zerg cannot rely on the Sunken anymore, so he had to put 2 more. So this is huge damage already, especially because we have such build as Terran. We are not going for Turax Acad. So this early aggression is really paying off already. You can see how big damage this actually dealt. Like, if Terran never used those 4 marines additionally, he would not kill the first drone, right? And then we would not get 2 more Sunkens just by simply pushing out. So, because the normal behavior from Terran is when they are going for upgrade to just sit, right? So if I was playing this game, probably I would just sit, build up my upgrades and army, and Zerg would never go for 3 Sunkens. And I would be in much worse position, because this is more minerals than you would use for base, for another hatchery, I mean. So Zerg would have 3 hatchery already. So look how much already we could get from this game. So it looks like those early Marines pushouts are insanely strong. So we are playing versus Midas now, and let's see this factory timing. Yeah, this is very annoying. We don't have range yet, so this bunker cannot cover this supply well enough until the range is finished. So that's one of the downsides of this build, is that your range is late, but on the other hand, you don't really need it this quickly usually. Many people just put turret here. Okay, we scanned, so he was probably looking what is going out from the eggs, and we saw drones. So that's very important information, because now we know we can be very aggressive, because no more mutas are coming right now, or links. Especially links. If we ever see links here, we would not be able to move out on the map. This pocket turret is insanely important. Very often Zerg will want to hide in this spot to kill your SCVs, but turret like that prevents that kind of. Of course, Zerg can still kill them, those turrets I mean, but like in this game, but it still buys you time and you have more time to react, etc. Another point is that because Zerg had those 3 Sunkens and this one is regenerating, Zerg can be a lot more aggressive with the mutas, because this move out of Marines, which is normally very scary because they don't have Sunkens, is not as scary in this game because Zerg has those Sunkens. So every action, every decision has their consequences in the mid and late game. Okay, that's interesting maneuver to fly off with CC to give yourself more space for Marines, but it usually treated it as big danger. We scouted another. This is interesting. It's actually not visible on the minimap, but I can see it right here. That's weird. And it's not a replay bug, I don't think, because we didn't ever uncheck the vision of the Zerg. There was a famous creep issue in the latest ASL, by the way, where I don't remember in what game was it, but basically Zerg put down the hatch in like hidden base, and the other Zerg's overlord saw it on the minimap, but it didn't show on the minimap. Like there was no color change of the creep, but it was visible on the screen. Anyway, back to the game. So Zerg noticed Terran move out and countered. That's something that Terran has to be aware of, and usually this bunker is there to protect such maneuver, but yeah, Zerg just ignored it and went straight for the barracks. And this situation is generally very scary, because if Zerg has a lot of mutas right now, he can really harass this area because there are no turrets anymore. But on the other hand, he will lose hatchery for that, probably, because we have no medics here, but yeah, those Marines should be... maybe they won't be enough. There are only few mutas, but probably they will be enough. Yeah. Oh my god, that's so unlucky for Terran. Okay. So that was very good for Zerg. First of all, he did some damage here, traded units for Marines, that's okay, and then he saved his hatchery as well. But our vessel timing is actually like okay. So it wasn't delayed. So 11 minutes vessels should be good enough. Yeah, also we saw more Sunkens. So we could never counter Zerg. In this game, Zerg had this mentality of just adding Sunkens and being very active with the mutas. Instead, what Zerg could do in other game is to build up economy and defend with mutas instead of defending with Sunkens, which is crippling economy-wise, but then you can deal damage to Terran. So it's like exchange, kind of. You can exchange economy for opportunity to be more aggressive, and this is what this Zerg went for in this game. Okay, but he missed this move out, so actually Terran got what he wanted. Another racks. We have vessels on the way. We are lacking gas. Our second last was very, very late. As you can see, it just started. And on top of that, we need to start our upgrade. Yeah, so we are very tight on the gas. We scan for the base. Yeah, this is so annoying, extremely annoying, and this is all because of those sunkens. This is possible because of those sunkens. Finally, we have vessels, but unfortunately, we picked off the hurt muta with the irradiate, so it didn't deal nearly as much damage as it could. Okay, so Terran is going for the base, and this is exactly the moment I was talking about, because for me, taking this base, of course, it's like fine. It's always better to have access to more minerals, that's obvious. But the problem is, because there is no gas, we cannot really make more of those units we want. So we cannot produce more vessels, BCs or tanks. And we can only make more marines because of this base, but at the same time, it doesn't matter if you have 200 of marines, because usually Zerg in the late game has a very good anti-marine defense. So they have problems with those high-tech units, not with the marines. Yeah, and it's very annoying that we lost this academy. So this Zerg was actually doing pretty good job. Except losing this hatchery, everything was almost perfect in this game. Especially assuming those 3 early sunkens. I mean, not assuming, but taking them under consideration. So now we have lurkers, and this is exactly the moment where Terran is like, okay, I cannot do anything anymore regarding straight up killing the base. We can only control the map from now on. So we usually, what Terran do in this situation is they put a little bit of force here, a little bit of force here, soft containing the Zerg, and then shuffling vessels around and casting irradiates while expanding themselves. So because we have those positions, I expect Terran next base to be here. And I think we need this because we want this gas. Okay, so look, that's a very important moment for you to remember. When you are in a situation like that, where you cannot do anything anymore because he has this huge lurker field, we have sunkens here, so we are not able to break the position without tanks, and we don't go for tanks because the filers will be here soon, so tanks are not that good, obviously, versus Zergswarm. Terran realizes that, and because of that, he just goes for more bases himself. And we have this group of marines. So Terran, of course, doesn't have any static defense versus ground units, so we use marines to defend from links. As a Protoss, you would just make cannons, right? But Terran doesn't have this opportunity, so we need units. And look, those mutas came here to deny this base, and marines were here, and this was actually pretty good trade for Terran, but of course it's still not enough to beat those mutas. So those mutas are relentless in this game. It's so annoying. Because we would like to be able to just get this base, but those mutas are stopping us from it. Yeah, and this is actually very, very annoying. Actually, this is funny that those medics can keep those STVs alive. Yeah, so now we have to bring back some units to deal with those 3 mutas. Yeah, another STV down. Zerg is being annoying, but Terran used this opportunity. So this is another important moment you can remember to use in your games. Every time Zerg loses all of his mutas, or mutas are out of position, or for whatever reason mutas are not in Zerg's main base or fourth base, you can use dropships much more effectively, because mutas are the units that defend drops the best, together with links or lurkers. But now Zerg doesn't have them, so drops are super powerful. Drops are super powerful in TvZ. They are game ending a lot of the times. It like probably TvZ drops in TvZ are probably more annoying for Zerg than recalls for a Terran in PvT. That's possible. Okay, in the meantime, we are going to soft contain this base more, because we don't want to be countered very often in like any matchup, but in TvZ this is happening very often, that when you are dealing damage somewhere, your opponent will make a move somewhere else. So this Terran is already anticipating that and putting more units here. But he misclicked, so that's unfortunate. Oh my god, that's so bad. Well, so he had the idea, but unfortunately the execution didn't follow, which is a common theme, to be fair. StarCraft is like that. You can know what to do, but then you just don't execute it properly. Yeah, so this damage is huge because all those trades are very good. We killed the Filer Mount, we killed Evolution Chamber. This is huge damage. And part of the reason why Terran went for dropships, I think, in this game, by the way, is that he didn't have gas for vessels, remember? We were kind of out of gas here, and because of that, Terran went for dropships, and then when Zerg put his mutas out of position, it was actually coincidence, I think, and the dropships were already ready to deliver a drop, so it worked out nicely for Terran. So we could say that going for this fourth expo deny with mutas was a little bit greedy for Zerg, because he sacrificed his anti-air defense. Okay, but we already saw PC's building. That's interesting. So we have how many vessels? Like 2? Those are the only vessels he made in this game? Okay, let me actually go back a little bit, because this is very interesting, this approach. So we have 2 vessels, we have those dropships already. Our fourth base is technically on the way, right? It was supposed to be done by now, but mutas were here to harass us. And now we went straight up to BCs. This is very interesting for a few reasons to me. First of all, the resource usage is like, we only have 5 barracks. Usually Terran goes up even to like 8 barracks or something, and then tries to make more vessels and or tanks or BCs. But this is also interesting because this is just so much easier to play in general for the Terran with BCs than with vessels, because with vessels it's hard to cast those irradiates constantly. But BCs are pretty easy to use. You can like even park your BCs here, deny those geysers, same here. So I guess this is also map dependent. And always you should check for the carapace upgrade, because if Zerg has +1 carapace, you should add the armory and go +1 for BCs, because otherwise BCs are not one-shotting Scourges, and that's very important. Okay, so finally Zerg defended, but this was huge damage. And now we have another drop and deny of fort base. Okay, so this game was pretty much won with those drops. And now we have this endless harass with PCs going up after, so this is perfect follow-up, right? Yeah, and going for the extractor, so we cut off Zerg from the gas, and that's a problem for Zerg in general, that Zerg has to use gas units to fight Terran, there is no other way. What are we producing now? Okay, we're going back to vessels. I'm not sure why. He could probably keep making BCs. Now we even have tanks. Wow. Okay, that's interesting. I don't know why tanks are good in this situation. Why Terran chose to do so. Okay, so he dealt with it but lost extractor in the process. So that's a few hundred gas less than Zerg would normally have. And this is also classic, like if the swarm was casted, so we cannot do any damage here, we just shuffle to another base and we just go like from here to here and so on. If you have big enough marine force, usually you can just stay with marines in this position, like I said earlier, and then shuffle your vessels, but in this case I guess we don't have enough marines, so we just move our whole army. Okay, 3 radiates. This is actually also interesting idea to just put the barracks here, and if you produce here you have this natural defense kind of, and then you can use those units later on. Yeah, this macro is huge from Terran now, with 4 bases, 2 more going up. Yeah, so actually if you have a lot of money in TvZ, which happens very frequently, making CCs like that is pretty good mineral sink, I guess. Also making BCs another very good mineral sink. You can just make those units that are very good, and at the same time you are getting rid of your money, so you get good value for your bank. Because if you are just making marines and vessels, it's very hard to actually spend this money. And your army is very macro management dependent, where BCs are just good on their own. BCs in TvZ is like this Protoss unit for Terran, where you just send them, they do good on their own, you don't have to babysit them a lot. And another drop. Wow. Okay. Yeah, drops were crazy in this game. Drops were MVP. Yeah, but at the same time, look at the APM of this Terran. He has like a lot of speed to spend all over the map, and we can see that on the minimap. Look, he's everywhere. He already has 6 bases going up. Now, very often maneuver is that to just make the factories in those bases in the corners, because if you accumulate enough tanks here, this base is invincible for Zerg. Even with Swarm, it's very hard to break it. Yeah, so this game is practically over now. It's just Zerg doesn't have anything. He has to defend all the time, and Terran just grows behind it. This is also like something generally very important in StarCraft, that if you are attacking, you should grow behind it, because if you are not growing behind it, then after the successful defense, in the end, you can be even with your opponent, and you don't like that. You want to use your aggressiveness to just gain some advantage, right? And advantage can be gained exactly by doing this, so just taking more expos. I don't know what happened here. We were mining? Okay, I missed this. Didn't matter, I guess, that much. We are not here to comment the game, so to speak. We are here to analyze how the Terran won. Okay, so I guess this was just a BM. He just sent those SCVs. Okay, so this is where they were. Maybe he was frustrated that this Zerg was not leaving the game. Or this was some kind of revenge, maybe. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Yeah, and making firebats in the late game is also very powerful, because they can deal with Swarm. Okay. That was pretty good. Especially this Illyri maneuver. I think I will remember that. To always at least try. So your scouting SCV is checking for the links, and your marines are going. Let me just check the last thing. What was the timing of the barracks? It was made on 10 or 11. So we have 9 depots, so it will be 11 racks. Because the same STV is gonna make the barracks, right? Yeah, so it's 11. So we don't have to even have 10 racks necessarily. Nowadays it's very trendy to go 8 depot, 10 racks. But even with 9 depot, 11 racks is still pretty good. Okay, I think I learned a lot in this game. So I hope you did as well. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.